Thanks to everyone joining us. Welcome to another great time this week, and we welcome every one of you that you are connecting to this broadcast this hour. I sincerely apologize that we came a bit late to this program this hour. That have to do with preparation, and that have to do with some other thing we need to put in place. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Join me to welcome HR Professor Ambassador Oyeche Promise Obina, all the way from Port Harcourt, live on the red. He's a monarch. He's one of the great monarchs that believe in Africa, believe that Africa can be great again, and believe that we can get it right in this continent. And I want to sincerely welcome you, sir, to another best program of the day. Welcome, sir. And how are you today, sir?
Thank you. The African Portal TV radio station. I appreciate Africa's great partnership. I am doing very good. And we all are swimming in the ambience of the aftermath of the Nigerian general election. So it's an African soil, African thing, and we are here alive and quite very prospective as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, His Excellency. Last week, we are unable to have this program due to the fact that you are right there at the polling center, casting your vote and making sure that the community and the city which you are the king on also do the same, and you lay a very good example by championing this to make sure that everybody become the part of this great election 2023. So let's quickly go back to last week Saturday. Let's give a kind of feedback on last week Saturday before we get to the business of today. How is the election go in your own area, and what are the unique things that you've never experienced before in previous elections that you saw on last week Saturday that you want to communicate or tell the listeners at home?
Yeah, thank you. Once more, I appreciate Nigerians. I want to appreciate Africans for always giving me this honor to talk to us on topical issues. 25th of February 2023 in history will remain a very remarkable day in the political spectrum of Nigeria and Africa in general. The people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria came out in mass against every political mobilization or alignment, voted for candidates of their choice in different offices, ranking from the office of the presidency and the National Assembly, which comprises of the Senate and the House of Reps. And in my kingdom, there was absolute peace in the process, from the accreditation to the voting. There was absolute peace, and the people spoke in one voice and chose their leader. And in most cases across Nigeria, people spoke in one voice and chose their leader. The irony of it remains that, like I have always said, that in Africa, democracy is a mirage for deceit. Democracy is a mirage for circumvention. Democracy is a mirage for hate and for intimidation, to malay people's wish and interest when it comes to leadership. Democracy has never been a a portal for transparency, for accountability, for honesty, for forthrightness. Democracy has never been that way. Because of the mode at which it was introduced to us, because of the vehicle at which it was delivered to us, because of the persons that brokered democracy in Africa. I said in one of our programs that the democracy we practice in Africa is quite different from what is obtainable in the Western world. And Saturday further proved that affirmation or assertion that the democracy we practice in Africa is quite different. People came out and exercised their franchise, chose a leader in the person and the office of the presidency. And the democratic leaders who claim to be the leaders of the people stood vehemently and reverted the will of the people. I was speaking under my ornament as an ancestral king to say that the result as announced by Ande does not translate the wish of the people. That is why you see in Nigeria there is no celebration. If, as claimed by the umpire of this football match, that 8-point-something million Nigerians voted for a candidate, how come there are no jubilations across the cities, across the 36 states of the Federation and FCT? There is no celebration anywhere in Nigeria. People are rather mourning. It's as if there is a tsunami in Nigeria. It's as if there is a Cold War. There is no celebration because the will of the people have been subverted. And is that the democracy we are talking about? It is quite unfortunate. It is quite unacceptable. It is quite regrettable that in this 21st century, that the people will spend their hard-earned money, their resources, their time, their emotion. People have invested their emotion for over a year, mobilizing, campaigning for a new Nigeria. And at the peak of it, some persons who feel that they own Nigeria will snatch this desired change that Nigeria has clamored. The kind of democracy we practice in Africa, like I've always said, is quite unhealthy, it's unacceptable, and it is very regrettable. And I want to assure you, Darren, that evil can never outlive good. Darkness cannot outshine light. In a country of over 200 million proactive souls, how can you determine the will of the people by a less than 2% majority of a 98% majority? And I want to tell you that this so-called cabal who have decided not to allow the will of the people prevail, they are not even up to, they are not up to 0.5% of the total Nigerian population. So it is quite regrettable, it is absolutely unacceptable, and except the right thing is done, we have murdered democracy in Africa. Because Nigeria remains the epicenter of governance, leadership. And I want to assure all Nigerians, and I want to assure all Africans that all hope is not lost. If it has happened in time past, it will not happen in our present time and succeed. 11th of March is another election to choose the governors and the House of Assembly members. I want to mobilize my kingdom. I I want to mobilize Nigerians across the 36 states and FCT to replicate what they did last week, to show to the cabals that power belongs to the people, and truly, power belongs to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. I really appreciate that, and I thank you for the passion and for you so bold about this and say the way it is. I really appreciate it. Let's look at the process and let's look at what people are saying. During and after the election. A few days after the election, in the following day of the election, one of the former president of the country came out and released a statement that the election should be nullified, that is not credible and is not supposed to continue, that he is calling for a recanting, or we should conduct the election. But with that, we realize that the INEC still continue and release the the report of the election. Let's look at the previous, the former president talking and what people are saying on the street. Are you categorically saying that the election, the last election, we actually put the wrong person on that seat?
The election was held and the people chose their leader. But the umpire decided to cancel the score of the winning team. For instance, Nigeria is in a football match with South Africa, and everybody saw the strikers doing well and scoring 5 goals as against 1. Now the umpire decided to upturn all 5 goals and award the 5 goals to South Africa, then awarding South Africa 1 goal to Nigeria. That is exactly what happened. The people chose a leader and they voted massively for that leader. The umpire changed the vote of the people against their will. That's in practical terms of what happened. It has never happened in the history of Nigeria that two states will score the same electoral vote for both the office of the president, senate, and the rep. 2 states having same scores, the same population. Is that possible? That is to tell you that the scores as announced by INEC were mere scores allotted to states. And they have forgotten that in the Electoral Act, there are laid down procedures for election. The business machine was introduced that captured every voter in order to ascertain how many voters that voted in a polling unit. And it's also in the law that after voting, the agents of the party should sign the result sheet, and the beaver should be used to capture the result sheet and transmit. But INEC decided not to. 1, go by the record of the beavers, nor allow the beavers function. 3 persons involved in a race, a 100-meter race. The same umpire with the whistle played the whistle. 3 of them started running. Now, and the umpire said that the whistle he played was just for 2. That the whistle that sounded wasn't for the 3rd person. Is that possible? You used the same machine for 3 offices: the office of the president, the National Assembly, and the Senate. Now, the Beavers was able to transmit results for Senate and National Assembly, but refused to transmit results for the presidency. You say that the Beaver collapsed. The Beaver failed. There was no network for the office of the president. But the same Beavers transmitted results for Senate and reps. That is to tell you the high level of impunity, the high level of injustice, and the high level of deceit, corruption, non-transparency the INEC has exhibited in this election. That is why President Olusegun Obasanjo made that clear call. And what happened in Nigeria is far from an election. It is purely a selection. That INEC should, as a matter of urgent, cancel the election in all the affected areas, and that the true result of the people should reflect through the Beavers, which is the confidence Nigeria had in coming into this election. Generally, Nigerians know that elections is always mad with injustice. And that is why when they brought about the invention of Beavers, everybody was comfortable, knowing that election results will be transmitted from the polling unit. As soon as the result we are casted, it will be counted, it will be reaffirmed and asserted by the party agents and transmitted to the polling, the server, where within 1 hour of the election, all Nigerians and the globe can view the results of the election through the INEC server. But what happened? At that glorious hour, INEC server lost memory. INEC server lost connection. The Beavers were ineffective. But these were the same Beavers. They were used for Osun State election. They were used for the Ekiti State election. And other elections in Nigeria that produced credible results that the people were proud of. The same Beavers could not function on a day it was most needed. So the call by former President Olusegun Obasanjo is a right call as a leader, because he has been there to understand the peculiarity and the importance of the #1 seat of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as the president. It must be based on excellence. It must be based on integrity. The leader must be a proactive, it must be a leader of good conscience, a detribalized leader, an economic expert who could come into office and begin to redirect the economic woes of this country. But what do we have? An empty promise by INEC that they were ready to conduct an election after Nigerians had voted over 3.something billion naira for these processes to be perfected. It is quite regrettable, it is unacceptable, and it is unfortunate.
Oh, thank you very much, His Excellency. I really appreciate it. I believe few people around that they would love to join this conversation. You can call +277033584 or your view and your point, and what do you think is way forward here. Now call +277033584. This is the African Portal Radio TV International, coming to you live and direct from our studio here in Pretoria, South Africa, and we are having a beautiful conversation with one of the great African leader and one of the great community leader we have, His Excellency HRH Professor Ambassador Oyeche Promise, live and direct in the studio that we are having this conversation together, talking about the past election, talking about the way forward, talking about Africa as a whole, because whatever that is happening in Nigeria, there's a tendency of it happening in most countries in Africa. As the giant of Africa, as the core, and as the one of the country, the most populous country in Africa, we deserve to get it right. But unfortunately, we are still living behind the time, and we are still focusing on things that is not moving us forward. And I like what the SLS say about the poor performance of the INEC regarding this election. That the INEC does do what's expected of them, especially during the presidential election. All right, sir. The damage have been done, and I don't think we can dwell so long in the damage. It's time for Africa, for Nigeria to move on. At this point, what is the way forward for Nigerians?
Thank you. I want to cite an instance that is trending on social media this morning. The president of the Federal Republic of Ghana sent a congratulatory message to the supposed president-elect, the INEC president-elect. And Ghanaians revolted so badly on that message and cautioned him to withdraw this congratulatory message. That should tell you that Africans know what is happening in Nigeria. They understand the level of impunity INEC has exhibited. For Ghanaians to revolt against the congratulatory message of their president goes a long way to show you that Africans know what has happened in Nigeria. And international observers from United Nations made a clear statement that the Nigerian election lacked transparency, it lacked equity, and it lacked fairness, and is below expectation of any electoral process. Now, what is the way forward? I gave birth as the father of all my children, and I named them one after the other. And the name I give to my children as their father are the name they will bear until nature calls them. We, the people of Nigeria, under our oaths to remain united and focused, voted for a leader that will emancipate economic revolution, justice and fairness in our nation. And the caretaker of this process felt they can stand against the will of the people. I want to assure Nigerians and Africans as an ancestral king that the will of the people, which is also the will of God concerning Africa and Nigeria, must prevail. The way forward is every Nigerian should be calm and follow the due process. The candidate the people voted has sought redress in court. And the number one redress is to allow the Nigerian people, I'm not talking about a party here, because we didn't vote him based on party. We voted him based on the fact that he is an individual and an entity we can trust in and competence in to do justice to Nigeria. On Friday, being yesterday, a legal suit had been filed at the Supreme Court to allow Nigerians access every sensitive material INEC used for the election. And that motion was adopted and given an approval. So that is the first call. We must investigate all the sensitive materials, all the result sheets INEC claim they used for the election. and it must be in line with international best practice and standard. It must be results that the party agent signed and affirmed. We want to teach Africans that we can do democracy and get it right. If it has been happening, it can never happen again and have its way. From all the units and all the wards in Nigeria, in all the 774 local governments, 36 states and FCT, we must investigate all casted votes and result sheets. Then we'll be able to come up with the findings. If truly 8 billion people voted for the candidate INEC declared, and if truly 6.1 million voted for the candidate the Nigerian populace voted, the first time in history that Nigeria is experiencing a high level of voter apathy. In the previous election, over 30 million to about 40-something million Nigerians voted. But in the present election, less than 24 million Nigerians voted. That's to tell you that a lot of the people's votes were destroyed. We have video and pictorial evidence of where vote ballot papers of the candidate Nigerians voted for were sorted out, burnt, destroyed.
You will agree with me that this is a lovely conversation to bring the balance to the current situation in Nigeria. As we speak, Nigeria went to the poll last week, Saturday, and the results of that election is out. And on Wednesday, 1st of March, it's announced by the chairman of INEC that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the current Nigeria president. So talking about this and talking about the way forward, talking about Nigeria economy and talking about what we need to do in times such as this, which area need an urgent address and which area we need to get the clarity on. And those are the conversations we are having right here, right now, to get a balance and to also get a kind of feedback from the community. So if you are listening to this broadcast, I want you to contribute your quota to this conversation. You can call us on +277033584. Let's have conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's look at the current situation in Africa. Let's look at democracy in Africa. Let's look at the way forward. Let's look at the shenanigans that is performing by some of the elite in Nigeria. And let's talk about what should we need to do to keep Nigeria moving and to keep Africa a great continent. Your conversation, your contribution to this conversation is highly expected and it will be highly appreciated. So please, if you are listening to this broadcast this hour, kindly call me on +277033584. Let's talk about it. Let's look at it. Let's talk about these challenges and way forward. As His Excellency already stated it, that it would have been better if this election was conducted and was delivered appropriately. It would have been a lot of solution to the problem of Nigeria. But since the damage has been done, we are talking about the way forward. What do we need to do? And how can Nigeria move beyond the cause? And how can Nigeria move beyond the boundary? And how can Nigeria see their future being bright? And how we're going to make sure that the right person is get the right job by the right recommendation. These are the conversations that we are having right now on the African Port already. I'm expecting the Excellency to connect back to us so that we can round up this conversation, as this is one of the conversations that we need to be having almost every time as we discuss about the issue that have to do with democracy and governance in Nigeria. They say Let me quickly give you a few video of what we have for you before we continue on this program. I'm coming. We are still here. Thank you very much, everyone joining us. Really appreciate it, and we thank you for the pleasure of your time. We're just waiting for His Excellency to connect with us so that we can continue with this broadcast. He's talking about the very huge aspect of the last election on Saturday, and we are looking forward to this to next week Saturday as the governorship election will commence by the grace of God. So if you are part of this conversation, kindly call +277033584, and I will definitely pick your call. But the more you call, the more you give it opportunity to go viral. So keep dialing the number, keep sharing this program. The more you share it as well, the more you give it opportunity to go viral. So please share, like, comment, let it go viral. We are live and direct from our studio here in Victoria, South Africa. We're just waiting for His Excellency to return back to the studio so that we can continue this program in high tempo. But in absence of that, if we don't get hold of him, we're going to use a direct phone call for us to be able to speak to him and complete this section for this week. Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it, and God bless you richly. Please keep sharing it, keep talking about it. We will appreciate every one of you. Let me open the line and see if we can be able to get His Excellency through the direct call. I think that will be the only option we have at this moment to make sure that we continue with this program and to please to His Excellency to round up this section. His Excellency, I will see that the network let the line break. Are you coming in, or should we continue on the phone call? Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'll be coming in shortly.
Okay, sir. All right. Okay, thank you very much, sir. All right. Okay, we're waiting for that. All right. His Excellency will be connecting with us very soon. I'll just throw a phone call to him. But in absence of that, let's quickly talk about the way forward. I'm coming. Hear this from us.
Emani ajanrete ja. Ajanrete ja. Mogo. Ajanrete ja. Olúrete o. Ajanrete ja. Olúrete o. Ajanrete ja. Ilẹ̀ pẹ̀lú Ọlọ́run. Ajanrete ja. Ọba pẹ̀lú ẹmọ kan. Ilẹ̀ lóhùn làgbà. Ọlọ́run lóhùn lẹ̀gbọ́n. Ilẹ̀ bá mú eku ẹmọ lọ. Ọlọ́run bá bínú lọ sọ́run. Òjò bá pọ̀ ní ìrọ̀mọ́. Iṣu fẹ̀yìn kúta. Àgbàdo tàpẹ́ kòkó. Ọlọ́mọge gún mú ọmú gbẹ. Ẹ sá máa fòye sórin. Ẹ máa fòye sórin. Orin ti dùn olówe yé. Àwa yóò fòye sí o. Àwọn kan kóra wọn jọ. Wọ́n láwọn làgbà ìlú. Àwọn kan kóra wọn jọ o. Wọ́n láwọn làgbà oyè. Àwọn kan kóra wọn jọ. Wọ́n láwọn fẹ́ tó lù wá sí. Wọ́n bá ń lọ́gbọ́n àpapín. Wọ́n ń lọ́gbọ́n ẹ̀wẹ́. Wọ́n bá ń parí apá kan. Wọ́n tún sára nídìí. Wọn ò rántí àwa mọ́. Ẹ sá máa fòye sórin. Orin ti dòní olówe yé. Àwa yóò fòye sí o. Wọ́n ń rèlú ọba. Wọ́n ń fi wáyọ̀ tọ̀ mi. Wọ́n ń jẹ kúkú jẹra. Wọ́n ń hùwà ìṣòtítọ́. Ẹ sá máa wò wọ́n lóye. Ibì kan ló máa já sí yé. Àwa yóò wò wọ́n lóye o. We plead for the change o. For the change o. We plead for the change o. For the change o. Àní káwọn kan máa jẹ gbádùn, káwọn kan máa rèlú ọba, káwọn kan máa jìyà. Ìyẹn ò dá o. Àní káwọn kan máa jẹ gbádùn, káwọn kan máa rèlú ọba, káwọn kan máa jìyà. Ìyẹn ò dá o. We plead for the change o. For the change o. We plead for the change o. For the change o. Àní káwọn kan máa wọṣọ
Thank you very much, everyone joining us. We really appreciate it. We are still live and direct on the African Portal Radio TV International, having conversation with His Excellency on the African Portal Radio. He's a monarch and he's also one of the great leaders of our generation. We have him live and direct on the African Portal, where we are talking about the last election, the way forward. What are the things that we need to do to bring the balance back into this continent, Africa, and also to bring balance back into democracy in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? So if you are connecting with us, I just want you to please kindly share this program. Share it as many times as possible. Let's it go viral. I really appreciate every one of you that will be part of this journey this hour. As we are moving forward on this program, I just want us to know that some issues needs to be addressed, and we don't need to leave them untouched. Let's talk about it. Let's find a permanent solution to some of the challenges we are facing in Africa. Let's talk about the challenges we are facing in Nigeria. Keep sharing it, keep talking about it. Is the African Portal Radio TV International, your one-stop media house where everyone have a say. And it's going to be a very lovely conversation on this broadcast right now, right here. All right, I already opened the line for those of you that you would like to call. You want to contribute, you have something to say about this past election, and you have something to say about the way forward to current situation in Nigeria. Call +277033584 is the number to call, and I really appreciate you for calling us to be part of this conversation this hour. This is happening and is coming to you live and direct from here in the studio. So if you have anything to say, please let us know, and I will really appreciate every one of you that will be part of this conversation, and that we also share this program. Please keep sharing it, keep sharing it, keep sharing it. It's a beautiful, lovely hour on the African Portal Radio. His Excellency is back in the studio. Let's quickly give him opportunity to back on here before we call it a day out of this program on the African Portal. Welcome back, sir. We really appreciate that. We understand the fact that the network can be very funny sometimes, but we really appreciate your time on this broadcast this hour. So let's quickly, you are explaining something before the network breakdown, but let's talk about the way forward as you are explaining. What is the way forward? People need to know, though a lot of people don't believe in judiciary system in Nigeria. A lot of people believe that if they can manipulate INEC, they can be able to manipulate judiciary as well. So what is the way forward?
Yeah, the way forward remains the judiciary system, because this is a democratic setting where the arms of government plays their independent roles. And the judiciary has remained the last hope of the common man. Like the Naira redesign, that is a policy that came at a time that Nigerians felt could gender greatness in the nation, but despite the restriction in withdrawal limit,
all right. Sorry about that. I think the challenge is still continue on the network in the side of our guest in the studio. So let's just have patience for with him. I believe that the network will be okay very, very soon. But we are having a lovely, beautiful conversation, and it let us know that judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But I doubt it, because the judiciary system is also not in a good time. But having said that, I remember having one of the great leaders in the program that said that the judiciary system in Nigeria is up to task and we can trust them. So let's trust them on this. Let's believe that they'll be able to deliver a judgment that will favor the ordinary citizens as they already do for the changing of the currency in Nigeria. So if you can just step back, don't chase the die, don't leave the place, don't leave the floor. Keep sending it, keep commenting. Your comment is actually very important to me. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the way forward. What should we need to do as a Nigeria, as an individual, as a country? What should we need to do? Let's talk about that before we call it a day out of this program. I still have so many things to do on this program this hour, so I'm just waiting for His Excellency to connect back, that we can round up this section and still do some other thing before we call it a day out of this program. But I sincerely appreciate every one of you that connect to this broadcast this hour to be part of this conversation. And for those of you that you believe that the writing has not been done, that you are not satisfied, put it on the comment section. And if you want us to host you on this program to talk about the current election and the road to Ancesral of 2023, let's talk about it and let's hear your view about that. Call +27 703 3584. Call that number now. I will definitely pick your call and I will follow up with you. Thank you and God bless you. All right. Thank you, sir. Welcome back. I really appreciate it. I pray the network is okay. We are just about to round up. I believe the network will be okay so that we can be able to have a robust conversation before we call it a day. So you are saying something about the judiciary as the only means for the common man. But if somebody can get hold of this so high class office of the INEC, how much more the judiciary? Do you see the judiciary as a solution to this problem? What's your view, sir?
Yeah, the judiciary remains the last hope of the common man. Like I say, there is hope. And I want to assure Nigerians and Africans that there is hope. I was talking about the Naira redesign and the importance of the policy preceding to the election. Vote buying has been one of the major setbacks in ensuring transparency in election. And the Naira redesign was a policy that came at a time that Nigerians felt could curb vote buying. You see, the politicians saw that they could not access the Naira. They decided to use the dollar. During the election, dollar was a game in Nigeria. Most interior communities that dollar has not visited before, dollar visited those interior communities in Nigeria this period. So that's to tell you that Nigerian politicians are always thinking smart on ways to undo the poor masses. They have never had the poor masses at heart. All they do is to play selfish game. Their interest overrides the general interest of the masses. And they are doing the biddings of their paymaster, because I will always say that whatever politicians do, they do to their own selfish game. They play politics with the health, with emotion, the wish and the will of it. That is why we have remained undemocratic, underdeveloped, uncivilized in Africa. Now, coming to the way forward, the INEC can manipulate results, but the judiciary will be held responsible if they dare manipulate the verdict of the team. They witness a tsunami revolutionary protest that will shut down Nigeria within a space of 72 hours. The youths are patient because they still believe that the judiciary can, do justice to their man. And that is why you see a graveyard silence. There is a graveyard silence in Nigeria. People are tired to even go to work. People are tired to go and open their business premises. They had a hope. They had an expectation. They had a feeling that we can do it this time. We can take back Nigeria. We can take back Africa. We can correct some ills
based on the character of the person they saw as a candidate they were to vote. Based on the track records of the person. It's all about personal resolve. Nigerians had a personal resolve, not because they were paid to come and vote, not because they believed in any political party. They didn't vote based on political party affiliation and or alliance. They voted based on personal resolve to make a change and to move Africa forward. The glory of our fatherland can never be truncated by an individual. So the INEC was appointed by the government of the INEC chairman. And he did the bidding of his paymaster. The INEC is not among the 3 tiers of government. The INEC is an institution. In the executive arm, it's an institution. It's an institution. You call it independent, but it is not independent. The sources of its funds and operation are tied to the executive. The appointment comes from the executive.
All right. The network is kind of not very great on the side of His Excellency, but we have managed to have some of the facts and figure, and he already call it the way it is. And I just want you to please kindly share this program, share it as many times as possible. Let's join hands together to correct this wrong, and let's join hands together to make this continent, this country, call Nigeria great again. I really appreciate every one of you that you are coming out to be part of this conversation. We are still on, but let me entertain you a bit with this song before we call it a day out of this program this hour. But as you are watching it, please share it, share it, share it, share it as many times as possible.
Emani ajanrete ja. Ajanrete ja. Ngogo. Ajanrete ja. Olúnrete o. Ajanrete ja. Olúnrete o. Ajanrete ja. Ilẹ̀ pẹ̀lú Ọlọ́run. Ajanrete ja. Wọ́n bá pẹ̀lú ẹmọ́ kan. Ilẹ̀ lóhùn làgbà. Ọlọ́run lóhùn lẹ̀gbọ́n. Ilẹ̀ bá mú eku ẹmọ́ lọ. Ọlọ́run bá bínú lọ sọ́run. Òjò bá pọ̀ ní ìrọ̀mọ́. Iṣu pẹ̀yìn kúta. Àgbàdo tàpẹ̀ kòkó. Ọlọ́mọge gún mú ọmú gbẹ. Ẹ sá máa fòye sórin. Ẹ máa fòye sórin. Orin ti dùn ní olówe. Yé àwa yóò fòye sí o. Àwọn kan kóra wọn jọ. Wọ́n láwọn làgbà ìlú. Àwọn kan kóra wọn jọ o. Wọ́n láwọn làgbà oyè. Àwọn kan kóra wọn jọ. Wọ́n láwọn fẹ́ tún lù wá sí. Wọ́n bá ń lọ́gbọ́n àpapín. Wọ́n ń lọ́gbọ́n ẹ̀wẹ́. Wọ́n bá ń parí apá kan. Wọ́n tún sára nídìí. Wọn ò rántí àwa mọ́. Ẹ sá máa fòye sórin. Orin ti dòní olówe. Yé àwa yóò fòye sí o. Wọ́n ń rìlú ọba. Wọ́n ń fi wáyọ̀tọ̀ mi. Wọ́n ń jẹ gúgú jẹra. Wọ́n ń hùwà ìṣòtítọ́. Ẹ sá máa wò wọ́n lóye. Ibìkan ló máa já sí. Yé àwa yóò wò wọ́n lóye o. We plead for the change o.
For the change o.
We plead for the change o.
For the change o.
Àní káwọn kan máa jẹ gbádùn, káwọn kan máa rìlú ọba, káwọn kan máa jìyà.
Ìyẹn ò dá o.
Àní káwọn kan máa jẹ gbádùn, káwọn kan máa rìlú ọba, káwọn kan máa jìyà.
Ìyẹn ò dá o.
We plead for the change o.
For the change o.
We plead for the change o.
For the change o.
Àní káwọn kan máa wọṣọ, káwọn kan máa wà kìsà. Ìyẹn ò dá o.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate.
ẹ mọ̀ ní àjàǹrété jà.
Please kindly join us again next week by the grace of God as we are going to be putting His Excellency on the spotlight. Earlier this morning, we got the news that Herufai and say that the reason why the Central Bank of Nigeria are embarked on the changing of the money at this period is because the president of the governor, the governor of Central Bank actually knows what he is doing. So let's just continue listening to this conversation. Keep sharing it, keep talking about it. It's unfortunate that the network is failing us in the side of my my guests in the studio. But having said that, by the grace of God, we're coming back next week at the same time on the same radio station. Please keep sharing it, keep talking about it. Don't forget, Africa can only be great when we all decide to make it great. And our language will never die when we all speaking it to our children and passing it on to the next generation. And our culture will never be tarnished or be destroyed if we ourselves embrace it and celebrate who we are. Let's celebrate our diversity. What unites us is stronger than what is dividing us. And that is the fact. And I really want to sincerely thank Elder Amos for joining this conversation. Let's hear from the people on the street. Let's hear what people are talking about before I call it a day out of this program this hour. Let's see if we can get few people to talk about this conversation and if we can be able to also have a kind of time of reflecting on the way forward on this program. Now, I would really appreciate every one of you that you will call in to also give your comment and what you view about the last election on Saturday. Thank you very much, sir. Bàbá ojú ọmọ ní tí yín ìbàjọ́ ní báyé ẹ̀ ní dààmú. A wà lórí àtàgbé yìí, a ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ìdìbò tó kọjá lọ́jọ́ Sátidé. Kí ni nǹkan tẹ́yin rí nípa rẹ̀? Kí sì ni ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe fẹ́ orí lórí àbẹ̀rù wípé bó ṣe rí nǹkan ló ṣe yóò rí?
Bàbá ètò sá.
Ẹ ṣeun.
Ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ kan ní ìjẹta, mo really appreciate ẹ̀ nínú prógrámù yín. Nígbà tí ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ìdìbò. Tí ẹ sọ pé àwa ọmọ Nàìjíríà àkókò òǹdí ni àtẹ̀mẹ̀lẹ̀ wọn ti mẹ̀lẹ̀ tó máa wọlé láàárín ara wọn. Yes, mo mú ọ̀rọ̀ yẹ, mo mú sọ́wọ́ mi. Mo sì ti sọ ọ̀rọ̀ yẹ fún àbúrò mi wálé nìkan bíi 2 weeks ago. Ó wá ní ọ̀rọ̀ òmùgọ̀ tó máa yàtọ̀ ètò ọlọ́gbọ́n bákan náà ló máa ń rí. So mo really respect brain gan.
Ẹ ṣeun bàbá, ẹ ṣeun.
Bí àwa ó ní ìdí àdúrà. Tí tó fi ní ìdí àdúrà ni pé ṣe rí àwọn táwọn yìí tá a bá sọ pé ọba tara ilé ẹ ní ọ̀pọ̀. Ará ìta ò ní ìrira ní ọ̀wọ́n. Yes, bẹ́ẹ̀ ni sá, because Tinubu tí ẹ ń wò yẹ. At least mo bá ṣiṣẹ́ fọ́dún mẹ́jọ.
Fọ́dún mẹ́jọ.
Yes.
Kódà kí lẹ fẹ́ sọ fún wa nípa rẹ̀?
Ṣé rí ohun tí mo fẹ́ sọ nípa ẹ̀ sá? Wọ́n ní ènìyàn kì í ní àròrò oníyì.
Àìláhùn níyì.
Yes, àìláhùn oníyì. Ṣé rí tí bàbá yìí jáde tàbí torí lẹ́tọ̀ tí bàbá yìí bá lè fún láàyè kó wọlé kó jẹ́ kó jókòó ó máa tún Nàìjíríà ṣe because àwọn nǹkan tó ṣe lẹ́kọ̀ọ́.
Ṣé kó dá yín lójú pé kì í ṣe pé tó bá jẹ́ kó wọlé ó ti wọlé àti ẹgbẹ́ ẹ ti kéde rẹ̀ ẹ sì sẹ́pò náà ni ó wọlé bí ààrẹ. Ṣé pé Nàìjíríà ó dalẹ̀ sọ báyìí?
No, ṣé mo ohun tí mo ń sọ ni pé ẹ mọ Nàìjíríà wá pé òyìnbó tó ṣe báyìí rò náà ló fi ṣe kẹsà tó ti fi máa parẹ́ because tí n bá ṣe tán mo ṣe máa ṣẹ́ẹ̀dì sọ́ọ̀dì kan sí ọ̀gá ọlọ́pàá kan ló ṣẹ́ẹ̀dì sí ìgbé Taraba State máa ṣẹ́ẹ̀dì ẹ̀ sí ẹ rí bí òbí gan bó ṣe ṣe àwọn ọmọ youth corps náà lò lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ gbogbo bí wọ́n ti fi dárò tó fi ń pa fígọ̀ rẹ̀ tó fi ṣe everything gbẹ̀gbẹ̀ lọ́sẹ̀ẹ̀dì sí everything ṣé ó yẹ kó rí bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n ní ọmọ ẹni kì í ṣe ìdíbẹ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ káfílẹ̀ sí ìdọ̀wẹ̀ lùmí. Ṣẹ́gbọ́n
ọmọ ní òṣèlú bẹ̀bẹ̀rẹ̀ kì í ṣèlú bẹ̀bẹ̀rẹ̀ kì í ṣèlú bẹ̀bẹ̀rẹ̀ náà láti ń pariwo kọ́mi ní òṣèlú bẹ̀bẹ̀rẹ̀ òun náà ló sún adé bí tá a dé yìí ọmọ ní òṣèlú bẹ̀bẹ̀rẹ̀ kápìlẹ̀ kì í ṣe ọmọ ẹlòmí ọmọ ní òṣèlú bẹ̀bẹ̀rẹ̀ káṣíbẹ̀ ó ló sún adé bí tá a dé yìí.
ẹ máa gbọ́ sà bàbá ṣe rí bí láìfi ti ṣe rí bí bàbá ti ṣe rí bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́ ni tèmi ṣe rí.
bẹ́ẹ̀
gbogbo wa náà kọ́ la jẹ́ orúkọ yẹn tó ti yé sà.
ó yé mi.
but gẹ́gẹ́ bí mentality ti tèmi tí a bá gba bàbá ẹ̀ka yìí ó náà ti rí ìyàtọ̀ oúnjẹ Yorùbá ń sè náà gbogbo káàró òjìire ó ti rí ojú ara ẹ̀ sè náà because gbogbo àwọn nǹkan tó ṣe nígbà exercise gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ náà sọ fún ìgbà yẹn so wọn tó lọ́dọ̀ ti ṣe é sí náà tó lọ́ọ́ ti gbé débẹ̀ òun náà máa correct ara ẹ̀ ìyá yìí ti pọ̀ ju sẹ́ńgbọ́sà.
ìpè ìyá yìí pọ̀.
ìyá yìí pọ̀ jù sà. lásìkò ṣe ìgbéyàwó mi pè mí ó pè mí lórí fóònù kí ṣe pé báyìí owó tó wá sí ìjọpọ̀ nù sí bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n dé báńkì wò ló ń gbà.
pé wọ́n délé gbowó òṣòwò báńkì.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni sà in fact owó mi jẹ́ fẹ́ ilé máa jáde lójú mi because wá wo irú ìyàwó ló jẹ wá Nàìjíríà yìí nígbà tí èèyàn bá dúró ní báńkì tí Yorùbá lè rí owó ẹgbà tí ní kí la wà fún àdìsọ́pá ṣe ìjọba.
kìí tiẹ̀ wá ṣe pọ́nmọ ẹlẹ́ran ń jẹ egun ọmọ ẹlẹ́ran ò tiẹ̀ wá rí gẹ̀gẹ́dẹ́ àtẹ́gùn àtẹ́ran gbogbo ẹ̀ tiẹ̀ tí wàá kú lẹ̀ pátápátá.
a rí tuntun kọ́lá mọ́ bàbá sọ̀rọ̀ fún wa bàbá bẹ́yẹ máa mọ bàbá yẹn AK-47 ó ní inú chọ́ọ̀chì àwọn kan fẹ́ gba pásítọ̀tì níkẹjà wọ́n lọ sí ẹ́mbásì wa ní pásítọ̀tì gbà wọ́n dé lọ sí Niger State ó ní kí iṣẹ́ yẹn mẹ́rin iṣẹ́ yẹn márùn-ún wọ́n dé rí pásítọ̀tì gbà wálé a lè sọ pé àwa Nàìjíríà tí Nàìjíríà là wà yẹ tí òun náà ń sìn báyìí tí ẹ ti rà òun náà á ti máa gbóríṣiríṣi tó bá dé ṣe mẹ̀sìmẹ̀sì bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n á ṣèpèlè lórí.
ó dà ẹja ṣe báyìí ẹ bá wọlé sórí Facebook ẹ bá máa share program yìí lọ gbogbo kọ́mẹ́ǹtì yín ń tẹ́tẹ́rù pé á pé bó ṣe yẹ kó jẹ́ ẹ má bá ń jù sínú comment section ojú òní tìyín ìbàjẹ́ òní bá yẹ ní gbé sọnù bí òṣèlú ọmọ mo dúpẹ́ wípé ẹ̀ ń tẹ̀lé wa ẹ sì gbọ́ nǹkan tí mo sọ ní ọjọ́ mélòó sẹ́yìn wípé tá ò bá túlù yìí ṣe tí ẹ bá fi lè tú ìlú yìí ṣe ìran tí ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn wọn ò rí n sọ nípa yín o wọn ò rí n sọ nípa yín.
ohun táwọn ọmọ wa máa sọ ọmọ máa kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ ó máa kọjá bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣàyà ó ti pọ̀ jù.
ó dà ẹja tó máa fàdágbé ètò ká máa fi rọ̀ sí yìí ká máa sọ fún wọn wípé ní gbogbo ìlú ní gbogbo ilẹ̀ nígbà tó wọ́n jẹ́ tó jáde ojú òní tìyín ìbàjẹ́ òní bàbá wa rèé Amos láti ìlú Johannesburg ẹ ní dààmú mo dúpẹ́ pé òkun ojú òní tìyín ẹ ṣeun ẹ ṣeun. àwọn èèyàn ti dá sí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí wọ́n ní pé ilẹ̀kẹ̀ má jálé má játa wọ́n níbi kan ni ó já sí o. To everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time on this broadcast. We'll see you again next week by the grace of God. The network disappoints us and doesn't allow the SLS to come back to the studio. But keep watching it, keep sharing it, keep talking about it. This is the African Portal Radio TV International. I remain yours, Joshua Oludare Olusan. African View and Africa on the camera will be on tomorrow. And let's join hands together to watch that program. We have a lot of programs that will come your way on the African Portal. Keep sharing it, keep talking about it. It's a goodbye from the African Portal Radio TV International. God bless you. Bye.